I'm Ingrid Burnett. I am presenting or starting our presentation for housing equity through local partnerships. And if we could go to the mission, which is the next slide. According to the Georgetown Environmental Law Review, March 7th of 2024, climate change is one of the leading causes of global displacement, only second to conflict and violence, depending on the year in question. Next slide, please. A few years ago, our son found himself without housing after being hospitalized for several months due to a health crisis that cost him his job, his marriage, his home, and everything in it. He left the hospital with his clothes he was wearing when he entered. As I sought for appropriate placement for him, I learned that in Kansas City alone, there are over 18,000 families on a 5-year waiting list for housing. Adult men who are single have few and often no access to traditional or transitional or permanent housing. Kansas City, like other cities and counties across the country, lacks the necessary systems approach to quickly identify and provide appropriate supportive housing for their more vulnerable members. Every year, across the globe, millions of people are displaced due to climate disasters. In 2022, across the United States, there were 675,000 displacements that were associated with climate disasters. And it is estimated that globally, 1 billion people could become climate refugees by 2050. Next slide.
These are the consequences of not addressing this challenge through a more strategic and systematic approach that would support positive outcomes. So we're really seeing an increasing number of people experiencing housing insecurity. Unhoused camps become public health and safety hazards for their surroundings. And you can read the rest yourself here. Traveling around the world from like California, North and South, Oregon, New York City, London and Paris, to name a few, I'm witnessing this housing insecurity challenge worldwide. But shockingly, I've witnessed this even in Asia and Korea and Japan this past month, where the elderly and vulnerable are traditionally taken care of by their families based on our cultural values and would never be left to live on the streets. I've seen so many in Korea, in particular the last 2 weeks, in the dead of winter when the temperature has dropped to a chilling negative 14 degrees Celsius, 6.8 Fahrenheit, and this heavy snowfall. Those facing housing insecurity are all lined up in neat rows in the subway on their own cardboard pad, cozied up by folding up the edges of the cardboard to look like little walls. Every person's walled-in little box is identical to the next one next door and equidistant. There's a structure and an organization to this shelter. The Korean people keep their homes well heated, so likewise, subways are also kept really warm. So it's not surprising that the subway becomes their home. Thank you. Next.
So, what is the solution to the problem that has been identified and described? Everyone has probably seen homelessness on the streets, and as we've identified, it's throughout the entire world. However, when you start trying to gather people together to begin to solve the problem, then you start to have issues. So the lack of affordable housing and sustainable economic system of care results in increased housing insecurity, global housing costs increases, energy and material costs increased, and those who experience housing insecurity may result to desperate measures, including creating camps and other inadequate solutions. And these unhoused camps become a public health and a safety hazard for their surrounding neighborhoods. And the cost of doing nothing, although difficult to measure, is definitely more expensive than providing housing and preventative solutions to the homeless. So what's the vision? The vision is to create a system, next slide. The vision is to create a system that pulls all your resources together. Similar to a program we have here in Utah called the ZAP program, which is Zoo, Arts, and Parks. Those programs might sound very disparate from each other, but we have created a program where tax money is funneled into the ZAP program, and it is used to support those entities, zoos, the arts, and parks and recreation. And whenever an event is held, it is the leaders of that event make sure to acknowledge this program in helping them put on the event. The plan, slide 5, is to create a coordinated system of services and financial supports to partners that is similar to this program, where you would pull the money together to create a system that would provide housing for all. I witnessed this in action last Monday at the legislative level. There was a discussion among the city mayors about how to continue to fund housing of homeless shelters. Currently, all cities provide a little money into the larger cities that provide the housing. The larger cities, of course, are asking for more money, and the cities that are giving the money, of course, don't want to provide any more. So there was a tug and pull about what the best solution to that. If we could create a solution in a system where all the money was pulled into a bucket and then it was pulled out appropriately, that would be a much more functional and appropriate system. And to create that strategy, you would have all the necessary agencies involved, your social services, your landlords, sorry, slide 6, your developers, your municipal services, and probably you would need some neighborhood representatives that perhaps were outside the system that could give a separate point of view. And you should include current and past unhoused individuals, neighborhood associations, local businesses, and your municipal services, bus, library, police, and solid waste. Slide 7.
So our policy it starts with this consortium that is comprised of different partners, and this consortium really creates the rules of eligibility of funds and partnerships. So they would create the requirements for both existing and new construction for sustainable social housing, and also create the protocols for applicants and partners and accountability measures. This consortium will implement tactics such as uh, providing developer incentives or incentives for existing properties to provide affordable units. The goal is to create affordable and supportive housing throughout the community. We could also provide mortgage subsidies for low income earners and first-time home buyers. The vision is also to partner with elected bodies to establish empowerment zones. Some of these are already existing in some parts in the country of the country. Sometimes they're called urban empowerment zones. They in this area they may lower sales tax to incentivize retail opportunities and development so that you can jumpstart economic possibilities there and connect communities, because it's so much healthier to easily access your employment, educational, nutritional, transit, and active community opportunities close to where you live. This consortium would also review and report effectiveness to the community at large. And they may make recommendations on related policies like tenant protections. Each municipality would prioritize whether, at the moment it's quick access to housing while balancing environmental health, resource efficiency, and labor standards for workers involved in construction and maintenance. So some of these rules for eligibility could also include comprehensive requirements for green construction or spelling out criteria for net zero emissions, solar energy production, and high efficiency heating and cooling systems in new construction buildings. The consortium structure would include the mayor or elected leader of the municipality. So whether it's a city or a county, like if there's a county executive or a county supervisor, the appointed members would be unpaid, and that would be a group representing a variety of areas. These could include community members who have lived experience with housing insecurity. They could be disability advocates, veterans advocates, housing developers, and providers, municipal people from municipal services, including transit, and those from the environmental sustainability sector, so that they can chime in on the type of requirements that the consortium would be needing in order to create these partnerships. And of course, we would also need paid staff for implementation.
Great. And so there will be a financial plan in order to fund all of this. And in order to finance the help plan, the help fund, a dedicated fund will be created and funded through a parcel tax. And a parcel tax is imposed on parcels of real property. They're not based on property value. A flat tax is the most simple form. However, it is best to base it on land area per square foot to keep a tax rate uniform for all land uses and exempt parcels that have little value and cannot be developed. Parcel tax practices vary, but in places like California, where housing is needed the most, a two-thirds voter approval is needed for it to pass. And there are alternative tax options that exist that only require a simple majority to pass, but these also come with their own challenges. The proper revenue source will vary by jurisdiction and factors specific to it. And governments can also create charitable relief foundations, encouraging corporations and individuals alike to donate to a cause while potentially earning a tax credit. And government agencies can also use that same charitable relief foundation to partner with businesses that are willing to create fundraising events while potentially donating a portion of the sales. And timeline-wise, creating a resolution to place the tax on the ballot is fairly simple. A city attorney would be direct to draft the resolution and will be voted on during the next city council meeting or town meeting. And then the elected officials will vote to place it on the ballot with a simple majority needed to do so. And they will need to place it during a general, primary, or special election. And the decision will be based on a urgency and strategic planning. And after the election, the entity that oversees the elections will have 30 days to certify the results. Normally, ballot initiatives are planned ahead of time, and this allows for deliberation, polling, creating a strong support group organizations with a similar mission. And so phase one should take about a year. Phase two, creating a consortium, should also be fairly simple with multiple templates out there to follow. And thorough thought should be taken when making important decisions regarding issues such as voting power, oversight, adversarial, and decision-making capabilities, processes, and bylaws. And implementing services and resources can also be streamlined by partnering with NGOs, non-government organizations that already provide desired services and are experienced in doing so. Creating programs from scratch can delay efforts, inflate costs, and create inefficiencies. And collecting taxes will be done periodically, more than likely quarterly or annually. And the program and its operations can be reviewed on an annual or semi-annual basis and compared to set KPIs to track progress. Because it is a city fund, it could be analyzed semi-annually in synchrony with the municipal budget, depending on program strategies, and contracting audits may also need to be scheduled for contracted service providers.
I didn't want to leave you all wondering what happened to our son. Fortunately for Sean, his health crisis was caused by his alcoholism, and he was able to enter a faith-based treatment program that aligned with his religious upbringing, and he will get the wraparound services that are so critical to transitional housing into permanent housing that's not available to all who don't share that same mindset or value set. The Help Fund will support a systems model of services delivery tailored to remove those barriers many people face when they become housing insecure by directing services to address the specific needs of the client to realize more positive outcomes in health, mental health, and safety. Reducing the environmental impacts of outdoor living will support cleaner living and recreational conditions for the entire community. Thank you for your time and for your consideration, and thank you to our team on the housing equity cohort.